After being extremely quiet to start off free agency, Howie Roseman and the Eagles have come alive, as they just made a flurry of moves, all of which are potentially pretty underrated, including adding some experience to the secondary in the form of a longtime starter, while they also beefed up their pass rush by adding a young edge rusher with extremely high potential. And that's not all the moves the Eagles made, nor are they done yet, so in this video I'm going to break down all the Birds' recent signings, as well as the Eagles' overall offseason strategy so far, plus why could Bryce Huff still have a chance at redemption? Well, we're going to talk about all that and more starting right now. So as we all know, the Eagles finally made their first external signing of NFL free agency on Wednesday when they brought in former Packers running back AJ Dillon on a one-year deal, which was a move that no doubt surprised many fans, including myself, but at the same time, I also really like the signing and think it's a really good move for Philly. That said, in my last video, I think I may have set the bar a bit too high for Dillon when initially reacting to the signing. And don't get me wrong, I still really like the move and think it has the potential to be an absolute steal for the Birds, as Dillon is a guy who has had a lot of success in this league before. He can be a really good power back while also having the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And I think he's got the potential to be one of the better backup running backs in this league behind Saquon Barkley. The key word there, though, is potential. As when it comes to Dillon, we have to remember that he's really struggled with injuries the past couple of seasons, as a neck injury cost him all of 2024, while it also hampered him towards the end of 2023 as well, which also happened to be a bit of a down year for him. So the questions are going to be 1, can he stay healthy? And 2, does he still have it in him to be the player that he was before the injury started? So we'll have to wait and see on that. After thinking about it a bit more, I definitely don't think he's just going to come in here right away and be RB2, as I think the Eagles still really like Will Shipley and want him to play as well. So we'll see how that competition shakes out during the spring and especially in training camp, but again, overall, I still do really like the AJ Dillon signing. And Dillon himself had a one-word greeting Wednesday after he signed, posting a simple Philly with the eagle emoji on Twitter. However, while the Birds' newest running back was saying hello, several other former Eagles and Super Bowl champions were saying goodbye, including Isaiah Rodgers on Tuesday, who thanked Philly for giving him a chance and embracing him at his lowest moment, while also saying that being an Eagle was the most fun he's ever had playing football. Then you had the hometown kid Kenny Pickett saying his childhood dream came true, getting to play for the team he grew up rooting for. And then you also had Milton Williams, who said goodbye on Wednesday with a heartfelt message saying Philly will always be near and dear to his heart. So once again, thank you to all these Eagles and Super Bowl champions. It is sad to see a lot of them go again, but it is just what had to happen at the end of the day. One guy who I hope we don't got to say goodbye to, though, is Britain Covey, who is now an unrestricted free agent after the Birds didn't tender him for $3.3 million. Now, Covey missed pretty much the entire 2024 season with injuries as he appeared in just 5 games, but when he's healthy, Covey is easily one of the best punt returners in all of football, and it also seemed like he was starting to earn some reps and opportunities at wide receiver earlier in the season as well. So personally, I think he brings value to this team, especially as a punt returner, because again, he's one of the best, and I also don't really want Cooper DeJean doing that full time, so I'd love to bring Covey back. And the good news is, as Jimmy Kemsky pointed out in a recent article, the Eagles do have a history of not tendering guys, but then re-signing them anyway on cheaper deals. So I'm hoping that's what happens here with Covey, but we'll just have to wait and see. But speaking of signing guys to cheap deals, the Eagles just officially made another move to bring in a guy from the outside on Thursday morning, as Adam Schefter reported, quote, "Pass rush help for Philadelphia. The Eagles reached an agreement today on a one-year deal with former Chiefs free agent linebacker Joshua Uche, who now will try to help replace Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. Deal was negotiated by Drew Rosenhaus and Kyle Lincoln." And this is a move that I think both doesn't really come as a surprise and also makes a lot of sense. I mean, we knew the Eagles were going to need to add some guys at edge rusher with Josh Sweat departing in free agency and Brandon Graham probably more than likely retiring at this point, although he hasn't made an official decision on that yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But I've said all offseason that I thought the Eagles were going to probably add a cheap veteran edge rusher on the free agent market, and that's exactly what they did here, signing Uche, a guy who they have been linked to in the past, including at last year's trade deadline, and again, they've now signed him to a one-year deal worth $1.75 million. And this is a guy that, just like AJ Dillon, is a very low-risk, high-reward signing, as he's had success in this league before, mainly in 2022 when he put up 11.5 sacks with the Patriots. However, besides that year, Uche's been very inconsistent, putting up no more than 3 sacks in any other season. Just last year, after he was traded to the Chiefs, he actually didn't even see the field very much, and he was inactive in the Super Bowl, and he's someone who, again, like Dillon, Dillon has dealt with a lot of injuries that have limited him. However, if he can just stay healthy, there's a possibility that this could turn out to be an absolute steal for the Eagles. I mean, if you watch his tape, you can clearly see that he has a lot of talent and ability. He's fast, he's got a good bag of pass rushing moves, and despite not having the sack since 2022, he has still had a pressure rate of 16.7%, which is good for 6th among all edge rushers in that span. So again, he clearly has a lot of potential, and this could possibly turn out to be one of those Vic Fangio type of moves, right? Like, I feel like there's a decent chance that Fangio specifically has seen the tape on Uche, and he believes in his ability and wanted to go get him. So if that's the case, which to be fair, that's just speculation, but if that's the case, I would 100% believe in Fangio's ability to get the most out of him, assuming he is healthy, especially after what we saw last season with Zach Bond. And no, look, I'm not saying Uche is the next Bond, because I feel like what we saw with him this past year is a 1 in a million type of thing. But again, I think bringing in a guy like Uche on a cheap 1-year contract is a very good low-risk, high-reward signing, because at worst, he just doesn't make the roster in training camp, so you cut him with essentially no financial burden. But at best, he could regain his 2022 form and have double-digit sacks again. So again, I really like the move, but give me all your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of the Joshua Uche signing? Despite the fact that I do like this move, though, I still have a hard time believing that this is going to be the Birds' last move at edge rusher, especially if Brandon Graham does retire. And specifically, I think they're probably going to draft somebody, most likely high in the draft, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. Plus, when you talk about the edge rusher position going into next year, you have to think about Bryce Huff, because he has the potential to be the X factor for that group. I mean, obviously, his first season in Philly was just horrible, especially after he had signed a huge 3-year, $51 million deal last offseason, and his initial fit in Vic Fangio's scheme is questionable. That said, there's no denying that Huff still has talent. I mean, again, he had 10 sacks in his last season with the Jets, and he was top 3 in pass rush win rate in both 2023 and 2022, and in 2022 specifically, he was first. Plus, even this year, I think he was starting to slowly trend up before he got injured around week 9. So again, he's got it in him to be a productive pass rusher, and there's still a chance that he could eventually become that with the Birds. And yes, look, I know there's been a lot of buzz about trading Huff, but it just doesn't seem super likely to me, considering the dead cap that the Eagles would have to eat if they did trade him, and Huff would also probably have to agree to a restructure to make things all work. So, you know, I think he's probably going to be stuck here for at least one more season, so the best the Eagles can hope for is that he can bounce back and end up panning out. And Howie Roseman still very much believes he can, as back before the Super Bowl, he said that he still believes in Huff. He said he has unique ability in his body, and he compared the whole situation to Javon Hargrave's 3-year stint in Philly, where year 1 was disappointing, but years 2 and 3 turned out great. So again, hopefully Huff can end up panning out after all, and it's really just going to be about 1, can he stay healthy, and 2, can the Eagles find a way to get the most out of him? So we shall see, but I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on this. Could Bryce Huff still end up becoming a good player for the Eagles, or what do you guys think? Moving on, though, the Eagles made yet another signing of an external free agent on Thursday afternoon, as they brought in former Browns and Raiders tight end Harrison Bryant on a 1-year deal worth up to $2 million. And this is yet another guy who fits into the exact same mold as all the other guys that Howie and the Eagles had brought in up to that point, being younger guys that have some ability and potential and are also very cheap and are coming in on short 1-year contracts. I mean, like Uche and Dillon, Bryant is just 26 years old. Now, he hasn't had the same amount of success those other two have seen in their careers, but he did have just over 230 receiving yards in each of his first 3 years in the league. And he also is a pretty good blocker for a tight end. Plus, in his last year in Cleveland, the Browns utilized him as a runner in some short yardage sneak situations, so he's potentially another option or weapon that could be used in the Eagles' tush-push or brotherly shove packages. Now, overall, is Bryant someone that's going to come in here and make a big impact? No, but on a cheap 1-year deal, he's going to have a chance to come in and compete for a roster spot in training camp, and if he does make it, he could bring some nice depth at the tight end position. However, the Eagles broke their trend slightly of signing cheap young guys with potential with their next move of free agency, as they signed former Titans and Giants cornerback Adoree Jackson to a 1-year deal worth $1.75 million. Now, the difference here compared to the Eagles' other free agency signings so far is the fact that Jackson is 30, so he's on the older side, but he's still very cheap, and it's still a short-term contract just like the other guys, so it's still very similar. And overall, I think this is yet another solid move, as Adoree Jackson is a guy who has a lot of experience playing in this league, starting 82 games in his 8-year career so far, and I think adding that experience is actually pretty valuable for an Eagles secondary that just lost vets like Slay, CJ, and Bradbury, while the rest of the secondary is extremely young. So again, think the experience that Jackson brings is notable. Plus, Jackson has been a good player in this league at times, both with the Titans and Giants, and while things have kind of been up and down for him lately as he's starting to get up there in age, he was still pretty solid in a smaller role this past season, as he played just 47% of defensive snaps, started 5 games, and didn't start a game until week 12, but he still had decent production, allowing only 18 catches on 33 targets, just over 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns, while having 5 pass breakups and a forced fumble. So, not great, not terrible, but for 1 year and $1.75 million, he's a solid addition to add depth and experience to the secondary, while also maybe even providing some competition for Kelee Ringo as the starting corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. Now, I still think Ringo's going to win the job, but again, nonetheless, I think it's a solid signing for what it is. And I think this latest signing, along with all the other signings that the Eagles have made in free agency so far, have made it pretty clear what the Birds' plans are for this entire offseason. I mean, at this point, it's obvious that the Eagles aren't trying to swing for the fences, they aren't trying to make that big splash, and instead, what they're doing is taking flyers on underrated, low-risk, high-reward guys on cheap, short-term deals that could end up paying off. All while their main focus is on clearing cap space to sign their core guys to big extensions both this year and especially next year, while also piling up the draft picks over the next 2 seasons, especially through the compensatory pick formula. So, I mean, it's clear that the Eagles are maneuvering themselves to be able to keep their core of their team together while also relying more on young guys, and I think we'll likely see them make many more of these short-term, cheap signings moving forward, all with guys who are a little more underrated and have potential. And I think, honestly, that's probably the smartest thing that they can do at this point, considering where they are cap-wise. So that's my opinion, but what do you guys think about all the moves that the Eagles have made recently? Just let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. And also, while you're at it, make sure you guys subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the latest news or coverage regarding the Eagles throughout this free agency and this entire offseason. I've been going live and putting out videos like crazy recently, so again, if you don't want to miss any of that, then subscribe and have your notifications turned on. And also, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like as well to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. See if we can get to at least 600 likes today. And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video going more in-depth on the AJ Dillon signing, among other things, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.